Hi everyone, I'm Susan Mulvihill. Do you enjoy growing tomatoes? And I mean lots and lots of tomatoes? Well, even though my husband and I love eating them fresh, we also enjoy making things like tomato sauce, salsa, and ketchup so that we can enjoy these tomatoes through the fall and winter months. Today I'm going to show you how to make oven roasted tomato sauce. We have been making this recipe for a few years now, and it is definitely the simplest way to make fantastic tomato sauce. So let's get started. For this recipe, you are going to need fresh tomatoes, fresh sweet peppers, onions, garlic, olive oil, salt and pepper, fresh or dried herbs such as oregano and basil, and roasting pans to put in the oven. Okay, I've washed my tomatoes and my peppers, and I've coarsely chopped each of them into large chunks. You can see how big they are. They don't have to be tiny. And I want to quickly mention that if you have a whole bunch of cherry tomatoes, you could use them in this recipe as well. So I'm going to add in the peppers. Put in some coarsely chopped onions and garlic cloves. And you don't have to worry about exact proportions. It's really a matter of the taste that you like to have. So if you like a ton of onions in there, put a ton of onions in there. The next thing I'm going to do is to drizzle some olive oil over the top. Put a little bit of coarsely ground black pepper and some salt. Sprinkle on a little bit of seasoning. And again, this is all to your taste. And then it needs to be stirred together. Now I have preheated my oven to 475 degrees. This pan is ready to go into the oven for 10 minutes, and then I'm going to decrease the temperature to 425 degrees and keep this in for about 40 to 50 minutes more. It's very important that every so often you stir everything so that nothing gets burned by being in the same place for the whole time. I've just taken this out of the oven, and it needed about an hour in order for the onions and the peppers to become nice and soft. That was what I was looking for. Now, of course, all ovens tend to vary, so yours might need more than the 40 to 50 minutes that I mentioned earlier. At this point, I need to let it cool down before we move on to the next step. So after the sauce cools down a bit, you'll notice that there's a lot of juices in there. And of course, we want the thickest sauce possible. So what we like to do is to strain out the juice, set it aside, and then puree the solids that we end up with. So I'm just going to get started on that. I'm putting a couple of scoops into a large strainer, and I'm straining the juice through the bottom, and you just kind of have to swirl it a little bit to get the juices out. Once I hit that point, I'm going to put it into this kettle, and that's when I'm going to puree it. So I'm going to put that into the kettle, and then I would do the process again until I make it through all of the sauce. Now, what I use in order to puree the sauce is an immersion blender. Some people call it a stick blender. If you don't have one of these, you could use either a regular blender or a food processor. So I'm going to go ahead and finish straining the rest of this sauce, and then we'll get to that stage. Now look at this wonderful sauce that we ended up with. This works so beautifully for making a lovely sauce. Now remember that juice that I strained out. Don't throw it away because it makes a fantastic soup stock. So as you can see, this was really simple to make. And we are going to have pasta for dinner tonight with this wonderful fresh tasting sauce on top. We also freeze our sauces, and that's very simple. Just put it in a container, put it in your freezer, and you can use it later. Or you can can the sauce, and we use a water bath canning method to do that. But to make sure the sauce is acidic enough to be safe, we use citric acid and add it to each pint-sized jar. The instructions are on the label as far as how much to use. So I hope you're going to try this recipe. It is absolutely delicious.